This is the Cafe Racer Podcast, episode 97 for September 18th, 2016. I'm Steven.
And I'm Crash.
Big finish for you there, huh?
Yeah, why not?
Air dropping.
So how's it going?
It's going good. I had a nice long ride yesterday.
Nice.
Listen, I want to make a little public service announcement before we do anything.
Okay.
So those of the 5 or 6 people that actually watch this live or go back and watch it on YouTube, we're changing the next show, and I don't know if this is going to be affected, but Google Hangouts on Air kind of moved to YouTube, and that's what we use to do the recording of the show. So I don't know if it's going to change things, but hopefully.
Yeah, I don't really either.
Yeah, there's some stuff on there we haven't really figured out yet about the possibility of having to use encoders. Right now, this kind of was a link directly from YouTube back to Google Hangouts. So I don't know if this is a temporary thing or we're going to, be continuing to use it the way we've been using it, which seemed like the exact same thing we've done, right?
Yeah, I suspect, honestly, I mean, Google has this weird tendency to just kind of like walk away from stuff and forget about it. But
Google Wallet.
I suspect that because the Hangouts on Air were really more of a YouTube thing anyway and didn't really fit in with Google Plus, they probably were like, yeah, let's just move that over to YouTube for real.
Well, and it's funny because on the Google Plus page, the new Google Plus page, there is no Hangouts anymore.
Yeah, Hangouts is gone.
So we'll see what happens. Hopefully by the time the next show airs, we have this thing all squared away and figured out. If we do add, I know very little about video encoders, but if we do add an encoder to the page, it looks like we'll be able to stream events live from places. So one of the encoders has multiple sources, and we could actually be doing a show and have somebody out in the field streaming an event for us while we're doing the show from the studios.
It sounds complicated.
Yeah, it is, actually.
It's an opportunity for somebody to stand with their hand up at their ear, like, live via satellite from Toronto, Canada. We have...
As long as I can have that, like, teletype noise in the background,
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway.
I've been watching Parks and Recreation, and I listened to the audiobook version of Amy Poehler's little biography thing, and she talks a lot about it. And I guess the producers and the creators of the shows really liked naming like ridiculous names, like giving people weird names. And so when I was thinking about that, like there's a newscaster on that show called Perd Hapley. And it's just like this goofy little, like, whose name is Perd? Like,
you say we have to change names? Is that what you're trying to say?
No, I just made me think of all the silly names on that show. Like there's some really crazy ones.
Like short for Purdy or Purdick.
I don't know.
All right, so let's talk about what's coming up in October for us. Primarily is AIM Expo, and there's some big news about AIM Expo, which sucks for me.
Yeah, they moved it, huh? This year it's still going to be in Orlando, but next year it's going to be in
2 hours
Ohio.
Yeah, Columbus, Ohio. We were kind of debating this topic around the motorcycles this morning. I went out for breakfast, and we were thinking, like, why not Vegas? At least with Vegas, you can still fly in and out pretty reasonably and get a cheap hotel room.
Yeah, Vegas is one of those places you can fly to from just about anywhere in the U.S. for not a ton of money.
Right. Columbus may mean a road trip, maybe. Like I might take a bike to go to there. I don't know. I got to kind of map it out and see how many days I would need extra. At least 2, I think. I don't think I can make Ohio in one day comfortably. But I don't know. They're saying it's close. It says 41% of the dealerships are within 500 miles of Columbus. It's good for you and Chuck and Todd if they're going to go. It's farther for James and I. Although James, it might be the same distance, honestly. For Joanne and Christy, it's probably closer if they were going to try to make it out.
Has lost me too.
You there?
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. I was just thinking I'm the only one it really affects.
Yeah, I mean, I have to go a long ways anyway. And then I think Ohio's closer for James and stuff, but
For Chuck, it is for sure. Chuck and Todd, that's a lot closer than trying to come to Florida. I just
yeah.
don't know what logistics are like as far as flights and everything. I mean, I'm going to try to go next year for sure. It's been really great for us
Hmm.
as far as the success of, you know, being able to do interviews and see new products. And I've already sent some emails out lining some stuff up. So I don't know. It's almost like I've got to do it. And then it's also going to be in September, which I think is a lot better for us when it comes to the standpoint of Barber.
Yeah, for sure.
I really wanted to go to Barber this year, and unfortunately, it's the exact same weekend as Overland Expo.
Right.
And for us, our show is really more about the vintage scene and cafe bikes. But honestly, Barber, I'm thinking I might even just try to go one day, like Sunday. Um, I don't know. It's just a lot of racing there, and there's not as much stuff to do and see. If Overland Expo was also a vintage type centric thing, I'd probably go there before I would go to Barber. One because
Right.
there's classes, there's a lot of manufacturers there. The networking is probably the same with the amount of people that you're going to see. If
Hmm.
we were on different weekends, I would have done them both. But you look at October like last year, it's AIM, Barber, and Overland Expo. It's tough to do 3 weekends.
Yeah, it's really busy.
Yeah.
And September is, I don't know about everybody else's schedules, but for me it's pretty dead. Like there's not a lot going on in September. I mean, this year, um, even if nothing happens with me as far as like going to Pensacola for the better part of a year, if I don't leave in October, I'm gonna have like one of my kids has an October break. I don't. It's like a week long break in the middle of October that coincides with the weekend of uh, AIM Expo. So it's like, well, that doesn't really work. So
Yeah, I'm thinking the time's better. It's just the distance is going to be, and I don't know what it's going to be like as far as accommodations. I need to go on there and look and see where the convention center and what's around there. But and I also don't know how this is going to affect demo rides, being that this is going to be like in downtown Columbus. At least with
right.
the Orlando location, there's a bunch of back roads around the convention center that we were not really back roads, but not main surface streets that they
Hmm.
demo rides on. So, well, we'll see. I'm kind of a little bummed out, but I'm
Yeah, it was
thinking,
really super easy for you to get there.
yeah, it's a 2 hour car ride. What's it? Mhm. So I'm going to be riding up to the Overland Expo, leaving a day early with Will Brazelton,
Yeah.
and we've got a route planned out that's mostly back roads, maybe a little bit of off road once we get into Georgia.
Oh, cool.
I'll be riding with a few other guys and camping or staying out one night before we get to the Overland Expo. So it should be a lot of fun. And then on the way back, we're all kind of splitting up, and I'm going to probably hang in Gainesville for a couple days before doing AIM. And I think Spencer's going to fly in and use my truck to drive up from here, from Jupiter, and I'll meet him in Orlando. So I'm really looking forward to that. There's going to be a lot of cool stuff there. I'm looking forward. I'm hoping that Yamaha is going to have both the new bikes there. The
Yeah.
XSR and the SR SCR. So I'd like to ride both of those and record it while I'm riding them. You know,
Yeah, we had this. I just kind of like master plan if all the stars align and I was able to do everything I wanted to do. Was like me and Jess were going to come out, and then she could demo ride a bunch of stuff.
well, that'd be good too for her if you could.
Yeah,
So you know, I've been looking at that bike, the SCR 950, right?
yeah. The scrambler bolt.
Scrambler bolt, yeah. And out of all those bolts that they make, I kind of like this one the best.
Me too.
Yeah, it's a cool looking bike. It's got nice lines on it.
I
You
think
know,
it looks a lot similar. Maybe not that similar, but it hits the same kind of like mental button as the V9 Roamer, the Moto Guzzi V9.
yeah, the only thing I don't like about the Roamer, and I got to look at it, is the exhaust on it's kind of weird. It's, I don't know how it's like maybe that's
I'm
something
looking
I'm thinking of. I'm thinking of their scrambler looking thing. Let me take a look and see it.
Yeah, the Roamer just looks like a
The
pretty
Roamer's a good looking bike.
pretty
That's not
typical.
the one I'm thinking of. I'm thinking of they came out with some sort of scrambler, didn't they?
The one that has like both pipes on one side.
Yeah. Yeah. No,
I
this
don't know.
this is a kind of cool looking bike.
Anyway, yeah, it kind of the similar aesthetic. You know, the V9 Roamer and the SCR 950 look almost like the same bike, but just the engine configuration is different.
I don't know, don't you think the bobber looks closer to the SCR than the Roamer?
Maybe you'd have to look
Just
that
kind
one
of got
up,
this
but
like slider thing on their webpage where you can slide back and forth, and the changes. What it appears to be is the bobber's got fatter tires on it, so they're smaller
oh
rim.
yeah, you're right. You're right.
The tank's identical, the frame's identical, the
Mhm.
side covers are identical, the seat's a little different on the bobber, and the rear fender's different. It's
Yeah,
got
the bobber does look more like
yeah,
the SCR
and it's
950.
got black. So I like the bobber a lot. That thing is cool.
Yeah.
I don't know. I liked it. I like it. And the price point that the SCR is a great bike, great starting bike, I think, for that price point. The only thing I can tell you right now is that I don't know how really off-road capable this is going to be. I mean, it might be fine for, um, gravel roads, maybe, but
Yeah, probably
certainly,
on par with every other street bike.
yeah. Yeah, they got, I think it's trail wings on there. Okay, so the thing that Gucci's got now, which actually looks a little bit better than that, the one that I was talking about, is called the V72 Stornello. So it's the V7 motor, the exhaust. See the pictures that they show on Gucci's website show an Aero exhaust on there.
Mm-hmm.
This bike actually looks kind of cool. This is their version of the Scrambler. So this would be in the same class, just maybe a lot more underpowered than I don't know. It's a kind of a neat looking bike. Let me see what yeah, you're probably looking at not a whole lot of horsepower on these things.
Yeah, that was one of the things. I mean, those things were
Pretty much dogs.
pretty down on horsepower.
But comparing the two between this and the Bolt, I don't know. I like
Mm-hmm.
I like the Moto Guzzi better. I like the lines
Yeah.
on it. It's got a tank. The tank's bigger. I'll have to do a comparison on here you go. Here's the technical data. Let's see if it tells you. Comes stock with Aero exhaust, 2-in-1 Aero. Uh, 48 horsepower. Well, there you go.
Wow,
And
that's a lot.
curb weight, which is no fuel, 186 kilograms. So let's see, 186 times 2.2, 409 pounds. That seems like it's heavy. Let me look at the Yamaha.
Yeah, it's not a light motorcycle. That's pretty much the same weight as a Bonneville, or as an old as a what are we calling those now?
I don't know.
The
What do you call
my
it?
Bonneville. Like it's not an old Bonneville, but it's not a new one either.
Well, wow, you know what? Guess how much the SCR 950 weighs? Now, this is
Mm,
wet though.
550.
You're right, almost on the number. 547. But where's horsepower? That's what I don't see.
They might not list it. They might be pulling one of Harley's tactics and be like, "We don't really talk about horsepower."
942 cc's. It doesn't tell you. Hmm. Engine. Let's see if it shows anything on here.
I bet
One
we could
compressor.
find.
Yeah.
I mean, it's the same engine as the Bolt, so
Yeah, no, it doesn't tell you.
I'm sure somebody, like some magazine, has reviewed a Bolt and can tell us the horsepower. 46.2 for the Bolt R spec in 2014. I don't think it's
Oh,
changed any.
they're comparable then. 46 and 48. Add the
Yeah.
fuel weight to the Gucci, they probably weigh the same. They're probably comparable. So it's really
Yeah.
going to be how the bike is, handles and is laid out in the chassis. I don't know what this
Yeah.
one's going for, honestly, but let me see if they got a price on their website. It's only comes in white. It's kind of a cool looking bike. It's white with a red frame and red accents on the tank.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah,
Triumph did that one year with the Thruxton.
right. Yeah, that was a cool looking bike. They've got a bunch of accessories, for the Stornello, I believe. But it's the same bike as a V7 Racer. It's just laid out a little bit differently. It's the exhaust and things like.
Yeah.
Um, so what do they cost new? They're probably in the 10 grand range, I'd think, for the Moto Guzzi,
Yeah.
which they've always been a little bit higher price point. It doesn't really tell you. Let me see what Cycle World says. Anyway, I'm looking forward to riding that bike. I don't think Moto Guzzi's going to be there. Matter of fact, I'm pretty much positive they're not going to be there.
Yeah. Probably not.
But I want to ride both the Yamahas.
For those who can't
That's fine.
What is
imagine
that?
life without two wheels,
I can hear the Allstate ad that you're
Yeah, I just
currently
heard
being
that
forced
thing.
to watch.
Why do I don't want to watch that? Hi, Jess.
Hey, look, everybody. It's Jess.
Okay, so we've got a special guest. If you haven't figured it out yet, it's Jess, and the reason that Jess is here, um, besides the fact that she makes the show a little bit more interesting than Crash and I, she's going to talk about
Yeah.
from a new rider's perspective. Jess took which would be not an MSF class, but help me out here, Crash. It's
The Lee Parks Total Control.
Total Control, and it's the same one that you can get anywhere else you go to a Lee Parks class.
I think so.
All right.
I'm
Well,
not 100% certain, but I think so. And Lee Parks like sells his curriculum to different companies, and all those different schools kind of probably put their own little flavor on it.
this is state of California, though, right?
Yeah.
Right. And doesn't the Navy use it as well?
Yep. I'm not sure if they use it nationwide, but they do here in California.
Okay. All right, Jess. So tell us, what was it like? When did you go? First of all.
It was really fun. I went last Friday and this past Friday. It was a 2-day classroom work in the morning for a few hours,
Mhm.
and then about 4 or 5 hours each Friday out on, the big parking lot.
You know what kind of motorcycle they had you ride?
I was on a Star
The
Yamaha
250 Star.
that thing. It was really cute.
Really cute. We'll see. That's important.
Really cute. That's important. I got the cutest bike out there. Everything else is beat up. There was a TW200 that I wanted to get on, but some tall guy took it. and before I could get to it. His
That,
legs are longer. He beat me.
that bastard. How'd you find the classwork? The first part. What actually did you learn in the classroom portion of it?
I learned a lot. I haven't ridden a two-wheeled motor anything for a long time, so I needed every instruction given. And in the classroom, we went over safety stuff, of course, street safety laws. Um, but they broke it down even more and went into in the classroom positioning on the roads and your bike, what all the controls on the bike.
Mm-hmm.
The classroom work was informative. I needed it. There was some really good input. It was very textbook, but still good. Needed, of course, but the instructor was really good, and she gave a lot of good pointers, like personal experiences, and kind of made it
Do they
interesting.
talk about laws specific to California?
Yeah.
Okay. So lane splitting came up?
Lane splitting did come up.
Okay. That's interesting because then it's really tailored for the state. How
Well,
about
she said the instructor, because the whole thing is so new with the whatever just got signed and passed here.
Mhm.
She said it's so new that there's still unknown parameters that haven't been written. I don't know where she was going with that, since we were all beginner riders. Maybe she just didn't want to get into it with us, or if there in fact really isn't any actual rules yet.
There aren't, like, the rules that are, there are no rules. The bill that was passed acknowledged the existence of lane splitting and said you can do it,
Okay.
and then tasked the role with providing training and guidance and blah 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 about it.
If
But
we still do it unsafely, we can still get pulled over
yeah,
for that.
they didn't like strictly codify anything about, like, doing it at a certain speed or certain speed relative to traffic or anything. The guidance that was kind of put out by the highway patrol before is no more powerful than it ever was.
Mhm.
It just means that it's actually acknowledged by the government and legal to do now.
that was really confusing
now
for
they
us
can
that
regulate it.
live outside of California because I was always under the impression that it it already was legal, and then somebody explained to me, I think you did, to say no, it's just not. It's just there was some guidance on it. And there's nothing specifically written that says it's illegal to do. Whereas in Florida,
Yeah.
we have that. It's written into the in the traffic code that you can't do X, Y, Z, which would be all considered filtering or lane splitting.
Yeah, it's apparently also in the same gray area in Washington, D.C. It's like, I mean, it's not a gray area in California anymore, but the previous, like, it's not legal but it's not illegal thing is the case in the capital as well.
Well, correct me if I'm wrong, that local municipalities in California could have ordinances prior to this happening that said it was considered reckless driving, right?
I'm sure they could, yeah.
Yeah, because I know people that have said that they in California got pulled over for lane splitting, and whatever cop pulled them over said, "Well, you were exceeding the speed limit that our ordinance says you can do." Whatever the case may be, but this kind of clarifies that to say, no, you're not going to be able to do that. You can't make it illegal. Because right now we're saying it is legal, but we're going to be publishing out whatever rules and fines are involved with breaking the rules. Correct?
Yeah, I mean, because the bill that went through that got passed it's the second time they tried to pass the same bill with, like, but the first time they went through, they actually put guidelines in the bill that's like, this is what safe lane splitting is. You can't do it more than this speed, blah 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 blah, all these rules about it, and it didn't pass. So when they stripped all the actual rules out of it and just said, hey, lane splitting is a thing, it exists, you can do it, then the bill passed.
Jess, are you drinking bubble tea?
Yes.
What flavor are you drinking?
Thai tea.
Very funny. I see that big giant fat straw with these marbles going up it.
I had the same thing before we recorded.
Oh, you crazy kids, you. So here's what my other question was: did you go over things that were considered advanced, like riding in groups, or maybe counter steering? Is that talked about in the
We
classroom?
did counters. That was not talked about in the classroom, but
Mhm.
out when we were practicing, we did do counter steering. Group riding, we didn't really talk about
At
or
all.
do. I mean, we were in a group the whole time,
Sure.
but that's in a parking lot, not on the street. I'm sure it's very different. Or is it the same? Are we always going in a circle?
Anytime you get on your bike, there's cones. The cones just appear magically, and you drive in a circle
Well,
with a
good.
group of other people that also just magically appear. So it'll be exactly the same when you're out on the road. The crappy part is it's really hard to get to work like that.
Going round and
Hard to get to
around.
work when you're just going in a circle. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like being in a hamster wheel.
Well, it was fun.
You know, when I talk about group riding, I'm talking about like not you and Crash going someplace, but if you were to go on like an organized ride, like when you guys did the Distinguished Gentleman's Ride, or something that's maybe at a little bit more spirited pace. So whether you're
Nope.
riding side by side, or you're riding staggered, or you're riding single file, just that type of thing. It's funny because
No, they
down
didn't go
here
over
we
that at all.
no okay and I don't think
Mm-mm.
I don't even know if Lee talks about that in the curriculum, but
I'm not sure because I've taken the second class in his curriculum, and I don't remember if we talked about it there either. I remember the Motorcycle Safety Foundation courses talking about it as like an afterthought, basically at the end of the course. They're like, "Hey, everybody, group riding is a thing, and here's what to do." Um,
it's funny because
like,
the
go
ride
ahead.
I went on yesterday was an MSTA ride. I ride
Mhm.
with the group a lot. I'm a member, and we've always ridden staggered. And when they do a rider's briefing, they'll always say, this is the lead rider, this is the tail gunner. These guys are on comms. It's the typical group ride protocol. And
Mhm.
I always mention a 2-second rule on a staggered group ride, so that you should always have 2 seconds between the guy in front of you and you when you're in a staggered position.
Yeah.
And I see,
They said that about cars.
huh? Yeah,
They
yeah.
said that as a general rule. Yeah.
Just 2 seconds between you and the vehicle in front of you, whether it's a car or a motorcycle, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Well, I've noticed lately that a lot of the Harley guys, the cruiser riders, will ride side by side, and that seems to be the rule. Like I've noticed so many of these guys in large groups riding side by side.
Yeah, I think they've just watched too many episodes of Sons of Anarchy or something. Like,
Tips, maybe.
I don't know what it is. Like, I mean, but there's old guys that do it too. I don't know why. Like that you're anytime I've ever been anywhere where they talked about group riding, they're like, "Hey, don't do that," because like you have no
There's no room. If you're
yeah, there's
riding,
nowhere to escape
yeah.
to.
If you got to swerve, you're going to be right into the other guy.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
mean,
that would suck.
because like if you're 2 seconds behind the guy in front of you, then the guy to your left is a second in front of or behind you. So you have, this cushion where you can squeeze out one side or the other. But if you're just riding side by side like a bunch of morons in your 16-foot wide ultra classics, you might as well just like
Well,
take a bus.
and I'm wondering too, what happens if somebody in front of you goes over like, the carcass from a recap tire, and everyone's trying to make
Mm-hmm.
evasive maneuvers real quick, and you're in traffic where you're not going to be able to come outside your lane. The only option you have is either grab a handful of brake or go into the guy next to you. And if you're grabbing a handful of brake, the two guys behind you are probably going to hit you. It just, to
Right.
me, it doesn't seem like, and there's really no actual practical reason for it. If you're listening and you feel comfortable riding like that, I see a lot of cops do it, but then again, I think
Yeah.
the skill set on those guys is much higher than the average rider. I see what they go through to become, road guys on a bike, and it's different. But if you're listening and you ride side by side, shoot us an email and just let me know what the reasons for it. Is there a practicality issue that's better? What are you listening to the guy's stereo next to him? What exactly is the reason for that, other than maybe it looks cool seeing a group of bikes with loud exhaust coming through a city? I don't know.
It does look cool.
See, there's the reason right there. Jess is the perfect example of why people do this, because
It's all
Jess,
about the looks.
That's why that bike's going to be pink with sequins all over it. Crap. All right. So
You
when you got
mentioned
out to
when
the
you
road-
said like,
huh?
okay, I was
No,
just
tell
gonna
me.
say like when you mentioned hitting the carcass of a tire, a friend of mine hit a deer on his Harley while he was taking a trip, like a couple weeks ago.
How bad was it?
I haven't. He didn't get hurt. His motorcycle got banged up pretty bad. It had to be trailered home, and he literally strangled the deer on the side of the road.
Because he got upset.
No, the deer was gonna die,
Okay.
and he decided it would be more humane to
To
choke
just
the deer to
choke it.
death.
Yeah, I was listening.
That sounds
I
good.
don't know if I would have went that far. That was
Yeah.
probably pretty barbaric, but I was.
I don't think he had like a gun or anything.
Knife
So
or
So he just had to
something
sit
to like
there and
stab it.
yeah,
choke
so he put the deer in a headlock and choked him out, I guess.
That's
I
awesome.
just can't even want to. I didn't want to picture that. God. And I was saying I was listening to Adventure Rider Radio the other day, and there was a guy talking about getting in an accident. One of these guys that does a bunch of. Actually, it wasn't Adventure Rider Radio. It was the Long Distance Riders podcast, and there was a guy talking about a rally where he came around a corner doing a little section that was gravel and hit some sort of farm animal. I think it was a sheep, something not really big, and completely totaled his FJR. I mean, destroyed it and
Oh, yeah,
landed him in the
that-
hospital. And he had all kinds of injuries and everything. He's still recovering from it. But yeah, they're not, deer, and that's nothing to fool with. I kind of freaked out when I was driving through Oklahoma and seeing all these dead deer bodies in the road early in the morning. And all the tractor trailers have these huge, like cow catcher things on the front. The guy's like, yeah, that's for deer going across 44. Oh my God.
Yeah.
Anyway, back to Jess. How was the road part? Did you find it easy, difficult?
It was. It was easy-ish.
Okay.
I mean the writing is not that difficult once you get going. I guess it's kind of feeling comfortable.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know if I could distinguish between easy and difficult. It's just
Well, you managed to fall down in
I
like the first
did,
2 minutes.
yes. So I did get to fall. I rolled on the throttle really quickly and then braked really hard. And so my bike jumped around and I jumped off as it was falling down.
Yeah.
I got a bruise on my leg.
You got it
From
out of
it.
your system. That's it.
Yeah.
One.
Yeah, like the first exercise that we did, walking the bike across the parking lot with just the clutch. He didn't say touch the throttle, but I touched the throttle.
Oh, so they had the bike running?
Yes.
Yeah, you know, how, like I don't know if you've done
You
one where like
duck paddling
they
it?
have you like
On the
Yeah.
side?
Yeah, that's what I was
Okay.
doing. I messed it up.
All right.
Got a little excited.
the other thing was, I mean, do you want to talk about your
Well,
hands?
it's my hands, really. He did say not to touch. Well, he didn't say not to touch the throttle, but my hand was laying on the throttle. I don't know what happened.
also, like, the
other
size of
than
your hands and the brake.
My hands are tiny, and the brake was so far that every time I went to grab it, I would roll on the throttle accidentally. So I had to like consciously think the whole time about where my hand was going because I was accidentally, giving it
Right.
gas.
And this
when
really
I
shows
wasn't
how
trying
important
to.
it is for proper lever adjustment. Now, you might not have had any more adjustment, and that bike might not have had much to begin with, but that's something you really need to consider when you set your bike up for yourself is going to be.
Oh yeah, that will be set.
You can
That's
actually
gonna be
probably
set.
get aftermarket levers that have better reach for you if you have small hands,
Mhm.
because that is an issue. You
I don't want to
can't,
be scared all the time. My
right,
bike will
and you
be
can't operate the front brake without having your hand on the bar on the throttle.
Mm-hmm.
So, and ideally, you want to be able to operate the brake and the clutch with 2 fingers. So, adjustment's going to be pretty big for you.
Yeah.
The advantage too of
But-
being able to operate that front brake with 2 fingers is that the rest of your hand is controlling the throttle.
Brake with 2 fingers.
Yeah, like
That sounds
if you
really
reach
hard.
up
Like,
with
see, I
just-
can't do it. I cannot do it with.
Yeah, I mean, like
It's impossible.
like
My
for those of you
hands
that are watching the video, there's like a
Crash's
Like a
hands are
child
7
finger
inches
length.
longer. His fingers.
Yeah, my
Jess's.
hand. You would not think that I could even play piano.
no.
No.
that you're going to be able to. I'm 100% confident you will find a brake and clutch lever to fit your bike if not already on there, be adjusted properly.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so we crashed the bike right away.
Crashed the bike right away.
After that, how were the individual skills?
I learned a lot, and I think that I did pretty well.
I mean, you
Um,
mentioned having like difficulty because some of the people were having a harder time getting it, and it was slowing everyone
it was
down.
slowing everybody down. So I got to practice a lot of maneuvers at very low speed. Because some people just didn't get it, kept falling over, kept stalling their bikes, and I felt like there were too many bikes out. We had 12 bikes all together, and and one side of the parking lot just had 6 bikes. So 6 bikes over to one side of the parking lot with one instructor, and then 12 bikes with 2 instructors on the other side. So it was a little cramped, and the instruction was being given to 12 people instead of 6 people. So at first I didn't really feel like it was very individual the first Friday when we were kind of doing the very, very basic things about like going, just trying to get your bike to go, and going around all together in a circle. And the second Friday was a little bit better. We had one different instructor. It's still 12 bikes on the same side with 2 instructors, but one instructor was being really uh, pulling everybody aside and like giving them good advice. I got a lot of good feedback from her. She actually watched me do what I was doing and gave me tips on like how to like roll up and grab onto the brakes when we were doing the emergency stopping.
Mm-hmm.
The swerving was fun. The Everything was really fun. I really enjoyed like learning. I was at first when we were doing what were we doing? I had a hard time leaning. I was leaning the other way on or not leaning, the pushing, the counter steering. I
Mm-hmm.
could counter steer, but my body, they said, looked very passive, like I was not being aggressive enough.
Because you kind of want to move with the motorcycle,
Yeah, I wasn't right. So that took a little explaining, and I got it eventually, and I passed. I didn't die.
You
Killed
didn't,
some cones on the final test.
you weren't
Yeah,
told.
yeah, I got
They didn't tell you to grab your stuff and leave.
no.
No.
You will never ride a motorcycle in this town.
Get out of here.
I remember when Lisa went through, there was some people that were adamant about doing the class on their scooter that they had. And it was like one of these maxi scooters, and they had such a really hard time getting their feet off the ground. Like the guy wanted to continuously ride with his feet out like outriggers. And they didn't pass the class, They just
It's such a. I'm pulling up a picture of a maxi scooter for Jess, but like those things are so wide
There
that
was
like
one
at
lady on
slow
a
speed,
scooter.
I can't imagine feeling comfortable.
no, it was really counterintuitive to learning. The guy really should have been, ridden one of the little GN 250s that they had there, but people get their head wrapped around that. From what you said, they were arguing, saying, "No, this is all we're ever going to ride. This is our motorcycle," and I don't know what the logistics were of them being allowed to do it on that bike, but they did and did not pass, which was a shame.
I
How did
was scared
the,
just of not passing just because I was all in my head. But yeah, there were a lot of people struggling.
hadn't you ridden a trail bike in the past? Like
No.
nothing. This is
Dirt
the
Oh, a
first
dirt
time you.
bike. A dirt bike when I was 10, 11, 12. So they were little, smaller dirt bikes. Other than that, no,
Okay, so my question is
nothing.
that concert between clutch, brake, gear shifting, gas, that doing everything so you know what is working in the right way and it's kind of in coordination with everything.
Mhm.
If they told you, hey Jess, here's a motorcycle, but there's no clutch, there's no gear shifter, you just got to get on it and turn the throttle, would you rather have that, or did you like the process of using the clutch and shifting gears.
Oh, I like the process.
Yeah, it seems, you know what? It's so funny is that seems to me like it's kind of universal with people. Like that to
I
me is
still want a
why
zero motorcycle.
everybody says the same thing. Look, if the Harley Davidson Livewire had a longer range, I'd probably get one. I thought that bike was really cool. I like that. Just roll on the throttle and there's instant, great torquey power right there. What I was really more
Isn't that just
referring
like a
to,
scooter?
not really. A scooter's centrifugal clutch is the delivery is much smoother and kind of lame, and you're like kind of
Look,
ramps
the
up.
scooters are dumb.
I'm getting a
They're
scooter
not dumb.
maybe.
They're
A
not dumb.
No, I
teal
know.
Vespa or that one. What was that one company?
Oh, a Lance.
Yeah.
I
I might
Lance,
get
I don't
one.
know, for anybody that doesn't know, Lance is like I think they're also owned by Sim, but
Magnesium.
no, they're high quality like engines. Like they're Sim engines, which are decent. Like they're not an $800 Chinese scooter that the valves go out every 30 minutes.
But I mean, how cool. I work 2 miles away right now. A tiny scooter. I could like actually be in my work clothes, right? And
Yeah.
going
Yeah, but you
in
still
a
need that.
skirt.
No, that's not necessarily. You really need to have a helmet on and the proper
Oh yeah,
shoes.
helmet. Okay,
Yeah.
never mind. I take it back.
You're not going to be cruising on the scooter
Yeah.
in your, work dress with high heels on. I mean, people do all the time, but you're
People
just as
totally do
susceptible to
it.
injury in a scooter as you are on a motorcycle. Yes, the speeds may not be as fast, but there are some scooters that go really fast, just like a
You
motorcycle.
just killed my great idea. Thank you.
Or you could just get, a BMW C1, the 650 thing that had the roof and the seat belts and everything.
Oh
We'll
yeah,
buy a
roof.
car. You might as well get a cage then.
I might
Yeah.
as well just drive my car.
Yeah.
No, I
At that
mean,
point.
there's a guy that works in my fire department that rides a scooter to work, and he pays like nothing for gas. You know what I mean? He fills that thing up and doesn't have to refill it for a while. And he's like you. He's a couple miles down the road, so he
Mhm.
just hops on his scooter, throws his backpack on, and he's at work. He's in a uniform, so he's got work boots on. He throws on a pair of gloves and a helmet, and boom, he's there. I think they're great. And if I lived like in a place where there was like a little town center area close by, I'd probably have a little scooter. I think they're cool. And I'd probably have a Vespa for sure, or an Aprilia.
Yeah.
But
I was thinking about, listening to the Cleveland Moto podcast, and Phil and them have been talking about zero motorcycles, and I've ridden some of their like older ones briefly. I could, even now, my commute's only like 50 miles round trip. I could still get away with an electric bike and not have to charge it except for when it gets home.
yeah,
It's
for a 50-mile round trip commute, absolutely. But for me being 150 miles, now if they increase that range on that motorcycle to 75, 80 miles, I could probably do it. And will you
I think zeros will go. Don't they have some that'll go like 100 now?
well, I'm talking about the live wire. I just really
Oh.
like that bike. I like,
Okay.
I've never actually sat on a zero or had a chance to ride one. And now that Polaris, who they buy, Bramo, I think.
Yes.
Yeah. Now that they've got an electric motorcycle as well, that I think it's just going to push the companies that have them to develop better technology for batteries. The Harley Davidson's never announced a live wire release or a production date or if they're ever going to actually do it. It was a concept to gauge interest. And from the places we were at when we were at AIM, there seemed to be a lot of interest. People wanted to they had the bike kind of mounted up on a set of rollers, where you could feel the motor and how powerful it was. And man, I really liked it. I thought it was kind of cool. Did you have a chance to sit on that thing and twist the throttle?
Yeah. Like that thing that Honda did with the NC 700 on the rollers.
Yeah. But did you do the live wire one?
No, I never saw it. Did they have it? They didn't have it there last year.
Yeah, it was in Harley's booth.
Oh, they
This
did.
is what you guys are talking about?
Yeah, I pulled up a picture for Jess.
It's cute.
I'll tell you what, if they took that street 750 motor and put it in that chassis, that bike would scream.
That'd be cool.
Yeah, that'd be a great motorcycle. But
Yeah, the live wire looks very Buell-ish.
You think so?
Mhm.
Really?
It does.
I think it does. It has like it definitely has like the kind of like angled like Buell, like short, super short tail section that the Buells had.
Speaking of Buell, there are some screaming deals right now on the older model, not EBRs, but Buells.
Oh, I'm
I was
sure.
actually, yeah, I was actually thinking about getting what was the 1125 that
1125.
yeah, because I'm
Yeah.
seeing them for like $3,000, you know. And as a matter of fact, on the EBRs right now too, there's also some screaming deals. Like I heard somebody tell me that the dealership down in Miami's got an SX that's out the door for like $10,000.
What would
Brand
you do if you bought an 1125 and then needed a part?
Well, I don't know. That's a good question. From what I understand, that they still have parts available through Harley Davidson for those motorcycles. Because I
I can't
believe,
imagine they're making anymore though.
yeah, I know. I don't know. That's a good question. I don't know what's there and what you could or couldn't get. The motor, I believe that motor was all Rotax, right? On the 1125.
Mhm. Yeah.
So the parts should be available. Um, I don't know. I guess it's the same as it would be different than buying an older vintage bike because there's a lot of like new old stock stuff laying around for older bikes. But
Yeah, and then people like making their own stuff for vintage bikes.
let's see if you can still get parts for these things. It should be. Well, I mean, there's companies out there like Harper's for Moto Guzzi that still has tons of parts available for bikes that were made in the early 2000s.
Hmm.
So on EBR's website, they list parts for an 1125R.
Oh,
There's a bunch of stuff.
that's cool.
And the funny thing is they still nothing's really changed as far as them saying they're going to make an AX. Like they haven't pulled that off the website, which I thought was kind of crazy.
Yeah, I gotta figure they want to.
It says right here, future models AX.
Yeah, well, I'm sure they want to. I know that it's got to be, you know, on Eric's mind.
They're still showing parts for XB12s, XB9s, and 1125 CRs
No, is that so? That's on
on EBR,
EBR's website. Oh,
EricBuellRacing.com.
okay. Well, maybe.
I mean, the stuff's not cheap, but it's on here. I'm looking at
I
some.
didn't.
Yeah, I don't know as far as like bodywork's concerned, but I'm sure that you could probably get that from, like Shark Skins or someone like that. But I'm seeing like
Yeah.
fork springs, belly pans for muffler, swing arms, clutch springs, exhausts. Yeah, there's all kinds of stuff. Output sprockets.
So I had a realization yesterday. I've never actually looked at the Jess's GS 500 sitting right next to my bike,
Mm-hmm.
and I cleaned out the garage yesterday. Like it was yesterday, right?
It was yesterday.
Yeah, I pulled everything out of the garage and then like swept and mopped the floor in there because there had been some repairs done to the drywall, and so there's all this like sanding dust all over the floor.
Mm-hmm.
Cleaned it all out anyway, and I had the two bikes sitting right next to each other. And when they're just sitting there, your bike looks considerably taller than mine.
Oh, does it?
Yeah,
Hmm.
I mean, because you wanted something that you could reach the ground comfortably on, and we know
Mhm.
from you sitting on it that you
Mhm.
feel more comfortable than you do on the Bonneville. And I bet it's just the springs or the lightness of the bike or whatever.
Well, can you
Something like
measure seat to ground on that?
that. I could the listed height is like 31.1 inches for the seat height of the GS 500, and um the listed seat height for um my bike is I think the Thruxton is the same, and mine is the same height as a Thruxton.
Well, do you think it has something to do with the fact that you throttled that bike for so much? Like maybe the suspension's a little shot?
Maybe it's possible. I did beat the hell out of those
off-road
shocks.
riding. Yeah, you've done on that thing. It's probably time to refreshen up your suspension a little
Yeah,
bit.
but
When was the last time you changed the fork oil?
I don't know, it's been a long time.
And
Too
they're-
long. I was thinking about that. Like Jess and I have talked about changing out the fork oil and everything.
Okay, I gotta go.
You gotta go to work.
I gotta go back.
And lame.
So real quick, Jess, it was a good class. You felt like you learned something, and now you're ready to tackle a cross-country trip, right?
Exactly.
Perfect.
Not even close. Oh my gosh, I have so much practicing to do. I can't wait.
So we gotta get that bike on the road.
Yes.
Well,
Gotta
it was
get
good having you on for a short period of time.
Thank you. Bye, everyone.
Take care, Jess. So that was from a special reporter, Jess Ashmore, on her recent class with the Total Control, and seems like she had a pretty good experience. She's pretty upbeat about crashing the motorcycle. Knowing
Yeah,
Jess,
it was
probably
really-
laughed when it happened, right?
I'm sure. Like when I was at work. It was like, it was last Friday, not this past, a couple days ago, but a week ago. And I was like, "Hey, how's your class going?" And she's like, "Good, I just crashed."
Yeah, she doesn't. Nothing really seems to phase her. That was pretty. She was like, "Yeah, drop the bike, no problem." Hey, so listen.
I was joking with her the other day that like if she's the kind of person that like if she decided she wanted to do drugs, she's like, "All right, what's the most hard shit I can do?"
Hold on, I lost you.
Meth? What's up? But yeah, like basically like she's the kind of person that would go like as hard, completely extreme, to the beyond the logical conclusion.
Hold on one second now.
I'm holding.
I lost you for a second there on the recorder.
Oh. Dun dun dun.
Yeah, dun dun dun. So give me
Yeah.
1 second here. Let me just throw another card in. That's what happened.
No, your recorder took a poop.
The recorder took a poop. And this will get you people that are actually watching this on YouTube have to suffer through this, but the rest of us, we're going to throw a new card in there right now. And no one's going to be the wiser because I'm going to cut this out. 32 gig. Let's see. All right.
I'm very meticulous about like just keeping all my cards like empty.
Well, I just cleared everything off, a bunch of cards from the trip, and we should be good to go here. All right. We're golden.
Okay. Anyway, yeah, I was just saying that like Jess is the kind of person that would just do the craziest thing and with like no fear. Like I was joking that if she decided to do drugs, she'd be like, "Oh, I'm just gonna do coke. Like I'm not gonna ease into it. Just straight to coke."
And a little heroin too.
Yeah. Like, what's a speedball? I've never heard of that. Let's do that.
No, she's well. You know what? That's the thing you look for in a new rider. Somebody who doesn't have any of these, like their cousin or their uncle hasn't been telling them how crappy it is or how great it is, and
Oh, I know.
to go buy a Gixxer and this or that. So she's coming at this thing, even being married to you. I don't think you've polluted her mind that bad, right?
I've endeavored not to. I
Right.
mean, like,
she came into this thing with a pretty open mind.
Yeah, and I'm pretty much like, if you want to ride, that's great. That makes me happy. If you don't want to ride, I'm not upset about it.
Right. And you never really kind of pushed onto her a particular type of motorcycle either, right?
No, not really. Like when we were talking about first bikes for her, I was, trying to find like something very light and manageable and just say like, don't really care too much what it looks like. Just get something that's manageable to learn on and then find what you want. Like find your dream bike later.
Well, this was, the argument I had with my wife when she first wanted to buy a motorcycle was I told her, I don't care what you buy as far as whether or not it's a street bike, a sport bike, a cruiser, a standard, just get something that's you can take and handle yourself. And what does she go for? A 1200 Bandit.
That's totally manageable.
Yeah, sure. And when we're in the dealership, I'm like trying to steer her to the 600, and she's like, I don't want a 600. I want enough power that if I have to get through traffic, I'm like, that you'll never outride that 600. There's no way.
Right.
And then the other issue with her is, which may be the case with a lot of women, is aesthetics. It had to look a particular way. She wanted the bike to look a particular way, the right color combination. What's really funny is like, she'll look at a modern sport bike where, it's a monoshock and there's nothing between the rear fender and the rear tire, especially ones that have like a fender eliminator kit. She's like, that's ugly. There's stuff missing there.
Huh.
She like wants to see a set of rear shocks, 2 shocks on the bike, and have all that whole section like filled up with stuff, So
That's interesting.
Huh?
I said, that's interesting.
For whatever reason, the Bandit was the bike that I want this bike, and she didn't want the 600. She wanted the 1200, and she took the class, the MSF class down here in Florida, and decides that her first foray on the road with this 1200 Bandit, which if you've never ridden or sat on a 1200 Bandit before, it's a pig. It's a big motorcycle. To me,
pretty much. I mean, it's like a naked Gixxer almost.
Yeah,
I mean, a naked Hayabusa.
Yeah, it's a big bike.
Big porky thing.
Yeah, and it was an old, I guess they were GSXR 1100 motors that were, punched out to 1200, and this was a carbureted version. And you hear me tell the stories about me screwing up the carburetors on it, but so she wants to take this thing out and go take it down to an hour ride south of here to go show her family on Interstate 95. And if you've ever driven on 95 in Florida, it's crazy. It's either they're doing 110 or they're doing 5, right?
Yeah.
Well, we leave the house, and I'm nervous as all get out about her going down south on this brand new motorcycle. Keep in mind, first day, she's riding her new bike after getting her endorsement. We're going down 95, and all of a sudden I see her like panicking. And I pull up next to her, and she's pointing at her fuel tank, and she's running out of gas. So I'm trying to point down at the petcock for the reserve, and she's not getting it. Doesn't know what I'm talking about. So we pull over. I said, turn the reserve on. She turns the reserve on. Bike fires back up. We get off 95, go to a gas station, and she's filling up. And already this bike's a little bit big for her. She's already on her tiptoes, so she's already nervous about it. And they're heavy. They're not light. They don't maneuver at slow speeds very well. So you really have to kind of give the bike gaps to maneuver it around at slow speeds. And there's happens to be a couple of lawn crew trucks in there. And the guys are seeing her, and they're hooting and hollering when she pulls off her helmet. At the time, she had really long brown hair. So here's this pretty girl on this motorcycle wearing her tight jeans and her jacket. And they're like catcalling and whistling. And we pull out. Now we've got to come out of this gas station, make a U-turn to get back onto I-95. We pull out, and I think she got a little distracted, because what does she do? She turns and she looks at the ground as she's making the U-turn. And where do you think she went?
Over.
Right in the middle of this main roadway. And I hear the bike rev real fast, and I look, and she's down on her side.
Yeah.
And you know what she was more worried about than anything else is the fact that all those people saw her fall down after, catcalling and hooting and hollering. So I get the bike up. I now I'm a little panicked and worried that she hurt herself because she's on the ground. And her leg was kind of trapped underneath the bike. She had hurt her ankle. I got the bike up. Brand new bike already. The side mirror's damaged. The side case was damaged on the motor. Don't ask me how. She didn't go down that far. It broke the shifter, and it broke the clutch lever. So, and it wasn't rideable. So I had to park the bike. I had to run home to come get my truck and trailer, go down, get the bike, trailer it, and bring it home. And that was the first day.
This is an auspicious start.
Right. First day.
I just, for the heck of it, I looked up how much a Bandit 1200 weighs. They were 474 pounds dry.
I guess that's not that heavy then.
It's not super heavy, but it's not
weight as that
light either.
Yeah.
Like
And
how I don't, it depends on how it carries that weight. Like my Bonneville with its narrow little cafe bars on it feels pretty like sluggish at slow speeds because the bars are so narrow.
this was just a big bike, it seemed like it was long, and
Hmm.
there's nothing small about it. We did a road trip where she took that, and she had a Core-Tech 3-bag set for the back and a tank bag, and I think she really enjoyed riding that motorcycle, but that bike probably never saw over 3,000 RPMs because I could hear the way she rode.
Hmm.
It was just like burm, 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 just steady, not full on acceleration. I think she maybe tried to full on accelerate it once and it scared the crap out of her. So after that, she just kind of babied it.
Yeah.
And, she rode that bike to work a lot. She rode it. She didn't work very far from the house, but after my son wrecked it when he got back from Iraq, she never really didn't seem like she had an interest to go back on the same bike again. And then she got the Tiger. And again, that was all about looks, how the bike looked. Way too big, way
It's an
too tall.
interesting bike to quibble over looks about. They're kind of like empirically ugly.
You know what the reason why she liked it? It
Hmm.
was white.
Ah,
It was a white
yeah.
motorcycle. She
There
wanted to
aren't very many of those.
no. And well, I tried to find the white Bonneville we were talking about, the special edition Bonneville.
Oh yeah.
I couldn't find it. It wasn't available anywhere. So because it was actually an older bike. When I got the Tiger, it was 2013. I think that Bonneville was a special edition in either '09 or 10, I believe.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
That sounds about right. I don't know exactly what year they had that one out, but I remember, it was around the same time as I got my Bonneville.
I got a picture of her somewhere on that Bandit. She looked good on that motorcycle. Anyway, that was a good lesson to learn when you're trying to pick a first bike. And it was also brand new, so we financed that bike. You know,
Right.
I think what Jess is doing is the right way to go. Is an older motorcycle where you don't have a lot of huge investment in it. It's probably going to fit her the
Yeah.
right way.
Yeah. We're just kind of, it's sort of almost just like we're playing chicken now, um, with like me leaving to go to Pensacola because like we want to try to do all the work to get it running together, and like be able to talk about it on the show or maybe even take videos of how, you know, insanely bad we are at making motorcycles run. But like if I get orders soon, then we might not have very much time at all. So the bike might end up in a shop, just having some other dude get it
Well,
all
how
back
much
together.
is that's got to be done that you
Well, I have the
relative.
carbs in a box.
Okay, you did get the carbs then.
Yeah, but they're in a box and not like assembled in a box. Like they're in a multi-compartment box.
Hmm.
So so there's that. And I've never put a carb together in my life. And this is two of them with some linkages and whatever. I don't think it's gonna be hard. I just don't know what I'm doing.
I wouldn't be doing that myself.
Um but then there's a bunch of random little stuff on the bike, like the the fuel tap that goes into the bottom of the tank needs to be replaced. And then all the lines that run the fuel system need to be replaced because they don't even have them.
Hmm.
Um, and then it's pretty much just exploring, like change the oil, change the obvious things that need to be fixed, and then see if everything's working at that point.
Right. Well, hopefully you'll get it done. But will she ride? If you did get it done, would she ride it without you by
Yeah, I
herself?
think so.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay. Is there
yeah.
anybody you can hook her up with? Like, does Dave have a group of people down there where you guys could get her to ride with some people first to let her feel comfortable on the street, or you're not really worried about that?
I'm not that worried about it, but she's Dave does like every, I think it's Sunday they meet up and like go ride somewhere together.
Okay. All right. Well, listen, I got a couple more things real quick. I did get some new stuff to test out for my trip from Moscow Moto, so I can take the Redverse tent. So I've got a little
yeah.
video I'm filming on their 60-liter bag, roll top bag, and I'll try to get that up on the site pretty soon. Other than that, got the 2 trips coming up. You know, I'll be talking about that. I don't know if we're going to get a show in before that, but we may, being that it's middle of September. Hopefully, we'll get a show in early October and talk about it right before I leave with the video
Yeah.
up.
I'm taking like 3 weeks off almost from work. So
Are you going to ride?
as long as I don't have what's that?
You going to do a ride?
Maybe. Probably nothing more than like part of a day.
Yeah.
Do anything.
Oh, okay.
Because I'll have the kids here still and everything.
Right.
So
When's that?
in like a week and a half.
Okay.
I'll take be off for like 17 days or something like that. I guess a little over 2 weeks.
Well, listen, this is all I got. If you like the show, give us a review over at iTunes, Cafe Racer Podcast. If you don't like the show, give us a review over at iTunes. Tell us what you don't like. You can always send us email to it, feedback@caferacerpodcast.com. Next show, I'm going to give you a phone number. So if you want to call in questions and stuff, we'll have a phone number for you to call in at. And leave us voicemail, tell us we're idiots or that you love us, one of the two, or whatever in between as well.
Yeah. Thanks to everybody that supports us on Patreon. That can be found at patreon.com. Just search for either my name or Crash or Cafe Racer Podcast. It all kind of comes up.
You put in Cafe Racer Podcast. Pretty good.
Yeah. And then all the other places like Facebook or on Facebook, it's Cafe Racer Podcast there. Same thing on Instagram. We don't use Twitter much, but we're there.
Yeah, we're there. Try to copy anything that goes on Instagram there, and I put the news about the AIM Expo out. But that's all I got, man.
Yeah. Get out and ride.
See ya.